Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. We're going to continue on now with a tour of the AWS console. So we're going to talk about what the AWS console is, and then we'll talk about how you access the AWS console and then look at a tour of the console. So let's go ahead and jump in. So the AWS console is a graphical user interface that allows you to manage various services on your AWS account. So there are several different things that you can do within your AWS account. So you can see here, I'm already logged into the AWS Management Console. The URL to access it, you can see here, console.aws.amazon.com. And you can see that I'm logged into the US East 1 region. So we're going to talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. So looking at the icons up here across the top, the first link actually is kind of like your home button that takes you back to home on the AWS Management Console. So let's just say, as an example, if I were to go to EC2, and we'll talk more about what EC2 is a little bit later on in the course, but notice if I click that AWS icon, it takes me back to the AWS Management Console homepage. So let's go ahead and continue to talk about these links across the top. So the next is the services link. So when you click the services link, it gives you a drop-down list of AWS services, and you can click these links to jump to the various AWS services. Now, in this lesson, we're not going to cover the services themselves. We're going to do that a little bit later on in the course. For now, we just want to look at how to navigate around so that as we introduce the various services, you'll have an understanding of how to get to them and access them. So as an example, under compute, you see EC2. So if I click on that service, notice that it brings up the dashboard for that particular service. And then there's a list of links along the left side that are categorized by task or activity. If I click back on the AWS icon again, it takes me back to the home page. Another way that I can access or search for services is in this Find Services search box. So if I were to click in here, I could actually start to type. So if I type EC2, notice it brings up a list of services that might be related to what I'm looking for. If I click on EC2 there, it takes me again to the dashboard. Let's go back to our home page again. And this time I'm going to click on that services dropdown. And notice over here to the far right that you have different ways to group the resources. By default, we have these services grouped by subject or category. We could also click on this A to Z and alphabetize them to access them as well. So I'm going to click back on group. And then on the far left, you can see a list or history of previously accessed services. So this is a history of services that I've recently accessed within this account. When you're done, you can actually just click on that services link again, and it will minimize. Another way that you can get to services is to expand the link here down below, recently visited services. There's all services and then the complete list of services again. Next, across the top, we have resource groups. Resource groups allows me to take resources within AWS that I want to group together to manage. So as an example, think about having different departments within your company that have AWS resources. You can create tags that say, hey, this is tagged to HR, this is tagged to the marketing department, and so on. Well, those tags allow me to group those resources together. And then that way I can manage them as one group. Next to resource groups is the pin. So this stick pin allows you to take services that you frequently access and pin them up here as shortcuts. So as an example, let's click on the pin and you can see our list of services. I'm going to grab EC2 and it allows me to drag EC2 up to the top bar and pin it. So I can grab another service as well. Let's go ahead and grab S3, which is the AWS storage service. Now you can see that those services are linked here in the bar. And now when I click on them, notice that it jumps me to that service. So again, these are just shortcuts that you're creating to quickly access different services. So I'm going to go back again to our AWS Management Console page. Now, next to our pin is the alert bell. So if we click on that, notice that this is actually going to show us a list of AWS related alerts. So if I click on view all alerts, you can see a list of alerts that AWS has posted over time. Let's click on this most recent alert and you can see the status, which you can see over here as well as a detailed description of exactly what transpired related to that alert. And then if you click the affected resources tab, then you would see if you have resources that are affected by that AWS alert. So I'm going to go back to the home page again. And next to the alert link, we have our account information. So I'm going to click this drop-down list. And from this drop-down, you can see information related to your account, your organization, billing, and security credentials. So I'm not going to review these in this particular lesson because we've seen them in a different lesson, but this is the link where you get access to those resources. And this is also where you click to sign out. Next to the account link, we have our regions. So most of what we're going to do in this course is going to be from the Northern Virginia region. But if you click that drop-down list, you have a list of available AWS regions. Now, if you create resources in different regions, you must remember that you've done that. Because if you, as an example, create an EC2 instance in a different region, when you go to the Northern Virginia region, you're not going to see that EC2 resource. That can trip you up, especially from a billing perspective. So keep all of your resources within a single region as you're working throughout the course, if you happen to be following along in your own account. I'm going to minimize that. And then over here to the right is the link for accessing support and documentation. We're not going to talk about support information here. We're going to talk about the support things that you need to know related to the exam a little later on in the course. But for now, just be aware that this is where you would go to access that support information. Now that we've reviewed the menus across the top, let's go ahead and go down the page and see what else is here. First, notice that there is a mobile app now available for you for accessing and managing AWS resources. There are some links here for just various information about learning more about AWS. And if we scroll down a little bit more, you can see there's a feedback link here where you can let AWS know about your management console experience. On the left, there are some wizards and workflows here that will help you to complete specific tasks. It's just a way that AWS is trying to take common things that people do and provide them with shortcuts on how to do it. Again, trying to simplify the experience. If we scroll down a little bit more, now these are more complex solutions, but they give you step-by-step guides on how to complete specific solutions within the AWS environment. So that's going to do it for our AWS console overview. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next lesson.